In this video, I want to cover the basics of what is a linked list. A linked list uses data structures. So if you have a structure, say let's take a simple case. You have a bunch of friends and you want to keep track of them, and you want to keep track of their first name and their age. We're going to keep it easy so I don't have to draw a lot. So let's say you have a structure, and I'm not going to write the structure, but the structure has a string that has the first name, so we'll pick a name here, and an age. Now what your structure is also going to have is a pointer to another structure of the same type. So you're going to have, say, the next pointer in here. I'm just going to call it next. I'm not going to put a star in front of it or anything because I'm just talking about the concept of what is a linked list. So here's one data record for one person. Name is John, age is 46, and then there's a pointer to the next. So let's say you start this, your program is going to add these things to this linked list. So you start with the first one, John, 46. You've just got one person. Now when you bring in another person, let's say you have Susan, age 20. She's got a next pointer. What a linked list does, let's say this is going to go in alphabetical order, so Susan comes after John. So you're going to set this next pointer to point to this block of data. And Susan is the end of the list, so she points at what's called null. And you've also got another pointer called typically head for the head of the list or the start of the list, and that's going to point to the structure that has your first record. So here this linked list right now only has two elements. So when you want to search through your list for a certain person, you start at the head pointer here and you look at the first structure. You say, okay, my first person is John. Well, that's not who I'm looking for, so I'm going to follow this next pointer to the next block and head over to check out the next block, which is Susan. Maybe that's not who you're looking for either, so you go to the next pointer and you say, oh, okay, I hit null, I'm at the end of my list, I didn't find who I was looking for. So that's very simple, just a two-element linked list. Let's say you want to add another person, and this guy is going to be, we'll make it so it goes in between these two, say Carl, and he's 34, just for grins. And he's got a next. So now what happens? You have to traverse through and find where this guy goes in your list. So you start at this head pointer up here. You go here, you look at the name, John. Well, John is before Carl, so you have to keep looking. You go to the next, you travel over here to the next. You see the next one is Susan, and you can tell, okay, Carl is before Susan, but after John. So Carl needs to be inserted in between these two. So the way you would do that in the code is you say, okay, Carl's next pointer, well, I know Susan has to come after Carl. So Carl's next pointer is set equal to be Susan, because we know that's next. And then John's next pointer now, instead of going to Susan, it comes over here and points to Carl. Okay, so now this pointer is no longer pointing to Susan. It is now pointing down to Carl. So when you want to traverse your list, you're going to search for somebody. You start again up here at the head pointer, up here. Go to your first record. Examine who's there. If it's not who you're looking for, you travel along the pointer to the next record. If that's not who you're looking for, you travel along the next one. And if that's not who you're looking for, you travel to the next one. And when you hit null over here, you know, okay, I've hit the end of the list. I'm done searching. So that's kind of the essentials of what is a linked list in basic terms. So you've got different operations you'll do on this linked list. For instance, inserting a block, as we just saw. You want to be able to delete a block. So let's put another guy in here just for grins. So let's say now you're going to add Zoe, who is 14 years old, friend of my daughter probably, with their next pointer. Okay, so to do this insert, you start from the head up here again, traverse through, bigger than John, bigger than Carl, bigger than Susan. You see the null here, which wasn't taken away yet, even though I erased it. I say, okay, I got to the end. I didn't find my insert point, so therefore Zoe here has to go at the very end. So what you would do there is you say, okay, well, her next pointer is now going to point to null because she's at the new end of the list. And then Susan's pointer, instead of pointing to null, is going to be reset to point to Zoe. And that's kind of the crux of how a linked list works. So you can imagine what you need to do when you want to delete an item. So say you want to delete Susan. You start from the head up here again. You traverse through until you find a match. You come over here. Okay, you find a match with Susan, and you need to delete. So essentially all you need to do there is Carl, who used to point to Susan, now needs to point to who is after Susan. So Carl's pointer here gets reset to point over here. And then this pointer is no longer pointing to Susan, it's now pointing to Zoe. So that's the basic idea of a linked list. You've got blocks in memory, which are structures in C, that have the data you're interested in, and then you've got a pointer to another block of that same type that ties them together however you want to tie them together.